Hello, friends. Today I want to talk to you about another lesson that I learned during my seasonal journey. And that lesson is preparing ourselves requires allowing God to work in us, through us, and around us. There are several times in Scripture where we see where God told the people to prepare themselves. We see this when they were at the mount with Moses, and God was going to come down on the mountain, and he told the people to prepare themselves. We see this when they were going into battle. God would tell them, prepare yourselves. In this process, that's what happened to me. I had to go through a preparation period. 2 Corinthians chapter 10 verses 3 through 5 says, "For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war according to the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh, but divinely powerful for the destruction of fortresses. We are destroying speculations and every lofty thing raised up against the knowledge of God, and we are taking every thought captive to the obedience of Christ." Not only that, in Philippians 4 and verse 8, it tells us, "Finally, brethren, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is of good report, if there's any excellence, and if there anything worthy of praise, to dwell on these things." Romans 12 and 2 tells us, "And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you may prove what the will of God is, that which is good and acceptable and perfect." On the day I told you last time where God gave me Proverbs 3 verses 5 and 6, as I was thinking of that and asking him to teach me how to trust him, a few moments later I felt the Spirit speak to me again, and he said, "Prepare yourself." I remember thinking, prepare myself. Okay, well, how do I do that? What am I preparing for? What do I need to do? And I pondered that, tried to figure out, what is it God is telling me I need to prepare myself for? What is it I'm supposed to do? Well, a few days later, in my nightly Bible study, as I mentioned before, where I do it late at night, in my nightly Bible study and prayer time, there's a double-edged sword to that. It's quiet. There's nothing going on. There is no one talking. Everything is silent, so I can concentrate a little bit better. But there's also the other side. It's late at night, which means I've already gone through my day. And on this particular time, I had read the scripture, I had prayed, and I was waiting to see what God had to say. I was just sitting there trying to listen. And I found myself, I fell asleep. I'm not going to deny it, I've done it before. I fell asleep. But this time, I had a very quick dream. And in that dream, I saw a piece of paper, something that had something written on it. And in my dream, a voice said, "Column testing." I'm going to show you what this means. Well, I immediately woke up and I thought, column testing? That's weird. I've never heard of that. I don't even know what that is. But because of my background in state government, my first reaction was, it must have something to do with bridges. It must have something to do with that. Well, I started asking different ones, "Do you know what column testing is?" And everybody told me, "No, I never heard of it. Don't know what that is." And I thought, well, maybe it's just a weird dream, maybe just something that didn't mean anything. But I thought I would look it up anyway. So I went to the internet and looked up column testing. And lo and behold, there it was, column testing. Now, I'm not an engineer. I'm not a scientist. I have no medical background. I have no engineering background. So what I'm going to tell you that I found out is in Debbie's simple terms. Column testing is basically where they take a chemical or a substance and they run tests to see what it's made of. Or they may use it to extract something out of this substance, this chemical, this whatever it may be, trying to extract it out to make it more pure. This is the same process they use when they do blood work to see what's in the blood. It's called column testing. Basically, what God was telling me was, okay, Debbie, I'm going to put you through some column testing. We're going to see what you're made of. We're going to find some things. And sure enough, he did. And I did. There were things that I had buried. I thought I was over with. I thought I was done. I thought I had handled. But they were not, because in the process of time, God would bring them up. And all of a sudden I realized that either I had not forgiven someone, or I had harbored something, or something was in my life that maybe didn't look like sin, but was sin to me, was something that stood in my way. And these were things I had to get rid of. I had to go through the process of searching and then asking God to forgive me. I had to go through and let that be released out of me. That had to come out. This is when I started researching some more in Scripture, and I come across Psalms 139 and 23. I've read it before, but this is what stood out to me. It said, "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts." So this started becoming a part of my prayer. I began to ask him, Lord, search me. Look in my heart. Is there any wicked way in me? I realized that the frailty and the human that I am, sometimes my heart can deceive me. Sometimes my heart can tell me something that's really not true, or that is, I tell myself a lie when really I have to do something about it. So I started doing that. Lord, search me. And there were times when God would reveal things to me that I had to confess and I had to ask forgiveness for. There were times when maybe I had to right a wrong. There were those things that he would reveal to me, but I knew he was doing it for my good. This was my preparation time. I was being prepared for what was to lie ahead. But it wasn't just the sins or the unforgiveness or whatever it may be. It wasn't just those things. There were things that I had allowed to become strongholds in my life, things that were weighing me down spiritually, and I didn't even realize it. Because you see, there were times when I would pray for Mama, and this had been happening for years. All of a sudden a thought would come up about her dying, and I would shake it off and I'd say, no, I don't want to think that. Lord, I don't want to think that. And then I'd immediately feel guilty. Well, when this started happening again after she came home, and I would ask God, Lord, why am I thinking these thoughts? Why is this coming up? I don't want to think this. But this one particular day, I was watching some videos, and I saw a video of a gentleman that gave a testimony of how certain words and things had started to depress him, and it had caused him a lot of trouble. And all of a sudden, God began to reveal it to him and released him from it. He began to reveal to him that these were things that the enemy had implanted in his mind. And all of a sudden it hit me. His spirit began to move in me, and I realized that thought was from the enemy. Why I hadn't recognized it before, I don't know. I have no idea, but I didn't recognize it. And I began to pray, and the Spirit of God began to move in me. And the next thing I knew, I was saying, those are not my thoughts. Those are not my words. Those are not my words. And I began to speak that over and over. Those are not my words. Those are not my words. And all of a sudden, I felt a release. I felt a lifting of that thing. And never again has that thing come back to me. Even up until before Mama passed away, that thought never crossed me again. God delivered me. He prepared me for that. He knew that had become a stronghold in my life. and it was something that had to come out. God was showing me that I had allowed the enemy to speak this to me, which in turn brought guilt. And I was holding on to that, and it was weighing me down. When I began to feel overwhelmed in things, God would send someone to me that would release me from that. But that was one thing that God had to do a supernatural work in me. I had to allow Him to do that. If we really want to trust God, then we've got to allow Him to work in us, through us, and around us. And if we're truly wanting to serve Him, we truly want to rely on Him, He will work that out of us. He will show us that. He worked it out through me. It was an area I could not handle on my own, but God worked it out through me. And I know He can do the same thing for you. Trust Him. He's worthy to be trusted. He is worthy of all honor and glory and praise. And there is no one more worthy. And what He does in you, around you, and through you is to make you a better person, to release strongholds, to take the burdens off of you, to make you into the person He wants you to be, because He loves you. God bless you.